Welcome to the House Ag and Natural Resources Budget Committee. Any bill introductions? I have one, Dave. It's 24 RS 2511. Okay. So what this basically is this takes the Wildlife and Parks Commission from 7 to 9. The governor appoints 3. The House appoints 2. The Senate appoints 2. The Attorney General appoints 2. No more than 3 commissioners per congressional district, and it's desperately needed. There's people on the commission right now who are openly anti-sportsmen. So that gives you 4 ponds to fish out of. Yeah, so it says not more than 3 members from the commission may be residents of the same congressional district.
But
there's 4 congressional districts.
are they
You
all?
only have 9 people, you have 3.
Well, that just says
No more.
no more than.
I know.
So you'd like it to say that.
But what I'm
What's the
saying is
bill?
if we have 3 and 1, 2, and 3, that's 9. 4 doesn't have one.
Well, you have the governor, the House, the Senate, and the Attorney General to find one there.
I understand.
Hopefully.
There'll be an amendment to
We
the bill.
can change.
Yeah, good.
You just get us.
So,
Sorry to complicate things.
no, it's great. It's great. That's what we're here for. So, we'll open the hearing on the Board of Veterinary Examiners budget. Luke, kind of give us a rundown. Pass this down to Randy. I didn't read that. Randy, you look that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Luke Drury, and I am a senior fiscal analyst with Legislative Research. I will be presenting the budget on the Board of Veterinary Examiners. And in the audience today is Mark Olson, Executive Director, and he will be available to speak with you all a little bit more about the budget after my budget analysis. So this year's budget analysis looks pretty similar to what you have seen previously before. Starting off on page 1 is just a broad overview of the agency's budget covering 23 actuals through 24 agency requests, governor recommendation, and so on. But I would like to begin my presentation on page 3. On page 3, at the bottom, is an overview of the Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund. The Board of Veterinary Examiners is a fee-funded agency with revenue that the revenue received provides financing for all the agency's operations. 90% is retained by the agency and 10% goes to the state general fund. And this is pursuant to KSA 47-820. The Board of Veterinary Examiners generates fee revenues from licensing, registering, and giving examinations to veterinarians and veterinarians techs who wish to practice veterinary medicine in Kansas. If we turn over to page 4, up at the top on page 4 is an examination of the fee fund with revenues, expenditures, and ending balances over time. The Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund has experienced increased revenues from license fees in 2023 compared to FY 2022. 2023 actual revenues increased due to an increase in license renewals, and revenues and expenditures are projected to grow at approximately 1.1% and 1.2% respectively for 2024 and 2025. The ending balance for the fund in 2024 and 2025. Is consistent with actual ending balances for the fund in 2023. As you can see there, the ending balances for the fund have remained relatively stable over the last several years. I will note too that as with most fee agencies, that the cycle of renewing your applications every single year will tend to generate higher revenues in a given month, lower revenues in another month, just on a fact of I need to renew my license, I need to send in my fees with that. So we do provide you with the cash flow down at the bottom of the footnote there. Their lowest balance would be about $40,000 in March, and that's just based on historical trends. So while you'll see what the ending balance is, that's really a snapshot in time. And again, that's because of the process of when licenses are due to be paid. At the bottom of this page, you will see a table that lists all current license fees that the board charges and what the statutory limit is for those. When we turn over to page 5, we'll get into FY 2024. So this table is very similar to what you will see throughout the process. We will start with, for 2024, what the legislative approved amount was. So subsequent to the 2023 session, there were no adjustments that were made to the roughly $380,000, all from the special revenue funds that were appropriated to the Board of Veterinary Examiners for FY 2024. The agency submits a budget that is equal to what that approved budget is, so no changes there. And then the governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate for 2024. Again, no changes. Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions, or I can move on to 2025.
Committee, any questions for 24? Representative.
So I guess this has probably happened every year, but do we always see the 24 budget when we're halfway through 24? Do we always get that report every year?
Mr. Chair, Representative, that is correct. Every year, for the current year, FY 2024, agencies will sometimes have changes in the current year, either ask for expenditure limitation increases, supplementals. So we'll address the current year, and this is a biennial agency, which it already has an approved budget for FY 2025, whereas other state agencies do not have an approved budget.
I guess that's true. Usually there's a change. There was no change in this one. Thank you.
Luke, let's proceed with 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, I misspoke. I would like to speak just briefly on page 6. This is a change from actual expenditures. The agency's revised estimate, again, it still matches what the approved budget is an all funds increase of roughly $26,000 or 7.4% above 2023 actual expenditures. And this is attributable to the legislative pay plan that was approved last year. So the agency's request does include those, and that is why you'll see an increase from actual expenditures into the current year. Moving on then onto page 7 is the FY 2025 analysis. The agency requests $385,316, all from the Veterinary Examiner's Fee Fund, and 3.8 FTE positions for FY 2025. This is an increase of $12,113, or 3.2% above the agency's approved budget for FY 2025. The increase is attributable to salaries and wage expenditures that address the pay plan shortfall for FY 2025. And then item number 1 there, the way the analysis works is the narrative down here at the bottom will match with the table. So item 1 matches with the agency enhancement request of $12,113. Again, that is for the pay plan shortfall. And then the governor recommends no changes to the agency's FY 2025 request. Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know we heard in appropriations today that we should be seeing these pay plan adjustments probably in most of our budget requests. So that should be probably pretty standard. And then I just kind of have a general question, Luke. Is there like a certain percent of a agency's budget on these fee-funded agencies that we kind of expect or want to see in their balance, in their reserve? I didn't know if there was like a standard, because I know a lot of times, like in the nonprofit world, you want to see that they have, 6 months worth of, cash on hand. I didn't know if there was like, it's more of a general question, but if there's like a standard thing that we kind of look at to know that the agency has a good, healthy ending balance.
Mr. Chair, Representative, to answer the question, I can't speak to a specific general rule. Each executive director, each agency may have a different take on how much they want to have or how much they find to be comfortable. That is why we do provide, though, the cash flow analysis. That ending balance really is just a snapshot in time as of June 30 of a given fiscal year. That's when it closes, and that's the ending balance. So I can't speak to a general rule, but we do provide that cash flow. And again, that's based on trends when revenues and expenditures are expected throughout the fiscal year.
And basically, the people, the fee payers are going a calendar year, and this is a snapshot of where we're at today, or something like that, right?
Mr. Chair, essentially, yes. And the license renewals can change from agency to agency on when they are due during a given year. So that's why it's just important to note that the ending balance is just the close of the fiscal year, which is June 30 of any given calendar year.
Committee, any more questions for Luke?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my presentation. And then, like I say, Mark Olson, Executive Director, is here in the audience as well.
Thank you. Mark, would you come on up and kind of help us out?
Is the mic still on? Good afternoon. I'm Mark Olson. I'm the Executive Director for the Kansas Board of Veterinary Examiners, and it is a privilege to be here, and I appreciate all that each and every one of you representatives do. There's a lot going on at the Board of Veterinary Examiners. We don't have a lot of special requests from the budgetary standpoint, but to answer your question, Representative Curtis, obviously our goal would be to carry 1 year's worth of budget so that we never know what our revenue is going to be, because we don't know how many people are going to retire and how many people are going to move in and out of the state. And we're a pretty frugal organization, and our cash flows get pretty short. And we're working on modernizing the Practice Act, and our statutory limits are at their caps right now. And we're working with stakeholders to bring a bill to help in regards to that. And so hopefully that helps you better understand that. But I just wanted to answer that question. And with Representative Carlin's question, we appreciate the salary increases for the staff and to be more benchmarked so we don't lose our employees. That's been very much appreciated. But as we're moving up the scale, we have those costs that interferes with our cash flow. And so we're okay right now. We're okay for 24 and 25. We're not making any recommendations, but we're planning for that. And there'll be a time that we'll be coming forward to introduce some changes in regards to our statutes. So in regards to the overall budget, on your handout, there's 4 key bullet points under agency goals, and I ask you to look at the 4th bullet point. I think it's important for veterinary medicine, important for protecting the public, to guard against negligent and fraudulent practices and respond efficiently and effectively in the investigation of all allegations of violations reported to the agency about both licensed veterinarians and unlicensed practice of veterinary medicine. We're seeing an influx of more non-licensed practitioners or non-licensed people that are having complaints come into our office, and we just want you to be aware of that. And so to protect the public, we protect the 3 million people of Kansas in regards to veterinary medical services by those that are properly trained, educated, passed the national exam, and are credentialed. And there are folks that think they can take the easy route and try to do without doing all that. And so we have protection in regards to both of those things. And I know our profession has been concerned about that. We don't have people going around the state looking for that, but when those complaints come into the office, and so our complaints went up a little bit this last year, and some of those were dealing not just with our licensees, but with our unlicensed practice. But with that, I think Luke presented the budget. I wanted to share a little bit of statistics about, is there a shortage of veterinarians in Kansas, or is there not a shortage of veterinarians in Kansas? There's a survey that's gone out by the KVMA, the Veterinary Medical Association, to all the licensees just last Friday, and it will be finished on February 1st, and there'll be information coming with that. But I think you all have received this handout that breaks out the veterinarians, and we have just about 2,800 Kansas veterinary active licensed veterinarians right now. Of that, there's a little under 1,800 that reside in Kansas. And of those 1,748 that reside in Kansas, they live in 98 out of the 105 counties. We have 2 counties that don't have a veterinarian living in them, but they have practices in those. So there's 100 of the 105 counties that have veterinary premises. Our numbers have stayed pretty much constant over the last 2 years, and I looked at 5 years. We've seen an increase in number of licensees over the last 3 to 5 years, maybe between 1% and 2%. But we have 5 counties that we don't have a veterinarian living in those, and we don't have a veterinary premise in those, and they are in low population counties. And so I just wanted you to have on this handout, it tells you how many veterinarians are in each county, but the ones that don't have a veterinarian in those, the 7 that don't have any living in those are Jewell, Kiowa, Lincoln, Morton, Wallace, Wichita, and Woodson. And then I believe the 2 that have Lincoln County and Kiowa County have veterinary premises in those. So if you take a look at the populations of those 7 counties, they're all 3,000 or under, and there are neighboring veterinarians that provide services in those areas. So the question is, do we have a shortage or do we not? And I'm not going to give you the answer to that, but I believe there is our equal representation based on the population across the state. And as veterinarians retire, we need to bring new graduates in. And the goal of the veterinary school is to have half of the students be Kansas residents and half the students come out of state to help with the funding for that. We're a little bit under that right now. And obviously, out of state tuition brings in more revenue. So we have to figure out how to structure that. But I think if we can get close to that 55 or 60 in each class, and we can continue to, we'll continue to support the veterinary needs across the state. So, Mr. Chair, I'll yield for questions.
Committee, any questions? Representative Bloom?
Mr. Olson, you didn't touch on the big problem. Is there a shortage of male veterinarians? I'm a farmer. I know this isn't a popular thing to bring up. I know you won't bring it up. We had a neighbor the other day, had a cow C-section. They had to get the veterinarian up out of bed because he employs 3 female veterinarians. Some women can do it. The majority are not strong enough to do a lot of these jobs. K-State is not graduating male veterinarians that we need. There's nothing sexual about it. Sexual is the fact, but nobody will address the problem.
Well, I can respond to that question, Representative Bloom. I graduated 40 years ago, and 80 to 90% of the students were male at that time.
That's right.
And it's just the reverse of that now. And that's across the whole industry. A lot of the students that came off the farms that went into veterinary practice are going into engineering or going into other fields. And there's been more attraction for the female gender. And from there, the College of Veterinary Medicine would have better data and statistics. But
You're,
you are exactly right.
you're letting the rural areas suffer from this. You know, I have a daughter, she's a veterinarian, and she does small animal too, but she does large animal. But she's more capable of doing the small animal just because of her physique and she's smaller. But we do not have near the male veterinarians that we need.
In regards to what the Kansas Board of Veterinary Examiners does, and what the KVMA does, and what the veterinary school does, our job is to license veterinarians in Kansas, to register veterinary technicians, and to register the veterinary premises and deal with complaints that come into the office. Our office doesn't deal with who gets into veterinary school and things like that, just for clarification.
Well, maybe you can start talking to somebody.
Yeah, there's a lot of the conversation that's in regards to that, but I just want to clarify the Kansas Veterinary Medical Association, the veterinary colleges, the producers can all work together in regards to that. And we're a small population state. I totally understand your question.
The people I've talked to, the population, are not happy about 50% of our students being from Kansas, and the other from overseas. China is a lot, and other states, because they do not stay here, and the Kansas citizens pay for that college, the building and everything else. We don't think that's very fair.
Yeah, and obviously, as representatives and legislators, you have some say in that. The college has some say in as they present their budget, and the producers. The bottom line, we want animal protection. We want veterinary medical adequate protection for the public, for the animals, and for the food industry to be top notch. Other questions?
Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just curious, what do you think is driving the people who are practicing without going through the licensure? Do you have any sense of what's driving that at all?
There are other states, surrounding states, that will give credentialing to certain entities within practice. I don't know if I can really answer that question because it's more of a new normal. It's not a high percentage, but we're seeing it more. And obviously, our office is made it a point to all the citizens of Kansas that we are statutory authorized to deal with complaints for both licensed and unlicensed people. And so that might be part of it too. It's being brought to our attention.
Yeah, just perhaps more reporting perhaps is happening. And so do veterinarians at practice, do they often have techs with them, like a veterinarian? They probably have somebody who's also helping them, like a veterinarian tech, or is there?
On the back side of your budget report, if you turn to the back side, it talks about the veterinary technician. There's, like I say, just around 2,800 licensed veterinarians in Kansas, and there's just 640 registered veterinary technicians. The industry would like to see 2 techs for every veterinarian, and we only have 640 techs, and we have 2,800 veterinarians, but we'll look at that. About 1,750 are Kansas residents. Others are people that have moved away and may come back or have licensed here. So we have about a 3-to-1 resident ratio of veterinarians to registered veterinary technicians. And we would like to see more technicians to be able to work under, because the statute says a veterinarian can hire anyone to work in their practice, and they can determine what their scope is. They can't diagnose, they can't prognose, they can't do surgery, and they can't prescribe if they're not a veterinarian. But if they have technicians that work for them and they train them and allow them to be proficient in the skills, it's under the veterinarian's liability. They can have them do those things. But obviously our numbers aren't high enough for every veterinarian to have a technician right now.
Yeah, and that could help solve the problem that the previous rep had talked with. If we have more of our female veterinarians hiring male vet techs, that would solve their problem.
Representative Moser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Olson, for your presentation. You mentioned the fraudulent practices that's going on between unlicensed people and licensed. Do you have numbers on those, and how does the unlicensed compare percentage-wise to the complaints that you get against licensed veterinarians?
Yeah, and over the last 5 years, we'll average between 60 and 70 complaints in the office per year. In 2023, we had 86 complaints. Of those complaints, the board looks for probable cause of violations of the Practice Act, and it runs roughly 80% of those complaints have no violations of the Practice Act, and roughly 20 or 25% have violations of the Practice Act. So, excuse me. So, you can do the math on that. There was 20 or 22 that have violations this year of the Practice Act. Of those, specifically unlicensed versus licensed, we had 4 that were unlicensed, and the rest of them were licensed. Prior years, I can't speak for that. I don't have the numbers on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I thought that was what I was going to ask, but I guess I don't know what an unlicensed is.
That would be if you wanted to practice veterinary medicine without a license. You would be unlicensed.
Who knows how much training, if any, this little farm girl had.
That's right.
So people feel they can do their own work or work for others.
A few people think
and
that.
Charge money to do the work. I mean, they not only do the work for people, but charge money.
For clarification, the Practice Act statutes say if you have animals that belong to you, you can do whatever you want on your own animals. If you want to do all your veterinary surgeries and you want to do everything to those animals, the law says on your own animals, you can do that. But if they are client-owned animals and your neighbors, that's unlicensed practice, and that's a violation of the Practice Act.
Is it against the law, or I can do it, and if nobody complains, it's okay? I mean, you get complaints. It's against the law.
It's against the law, but it has to be. I mean, the goal is to stop that,
right?
And it has to be reported.
So it comes to you.
If it comes to us, we'll stop it. If we don't know anything about it, there's nothing we'll do about it.
Go to jail for it? I mean, I don't know how far the law takes it. I guess it's just kind of new thinking to me here. You can do what? You can stop it, but
we're going to cease and we are going to stop that. If they're coming in from out of state and doing it, we're going to ask them to go back to their jurisdiction. And we have a court order for them to not do that anymore.
So you can put them in jail.
Well, I don't know if we can go that far.
Well, that's what I want to know.
We can cease and desist. We can fine them, and depending upon how, if they would want to have their due process and go up several chains, I suppose some of those other things could take place.
So
but
it's
really,
not clear what is criminal and what is just malpractice. There's a difference between criminal.
No, everything in our board deals with civil law.
Okay, that's what.
Criminal law is in a different court.
So if you get a complaint against someone for a violation and you want them to stop and you go through your process, and that settles it unless the victim takes it to criminal court, is that the way that would work?
Well, when they find out what the law is, we don't usually have any problem with these people. They just have to be recognized that they're breaking the law. I believe personally, and I won't say this for the board, but I'll say this personally, I believe some people don't believe there's even a law about that. And when we instruct them about the law, then it becomes front and center.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your questions.
Committee, Representative Curtis.
I'm sorry, apologize for prolonging this, Mr. Chairman, but I was just looking at your chart of licensed veterinarians, and I am blown away. 384 licensed veterinarians in Johnson County. Like, nobody even comes close. No other county comes close to that. 21 in Wyandotte. Like, Sedgwick has 158, and like where you see most of the animals in our state, there's few. I'm just blown away at, like, why would there be 384 in one county?
There's 619,195 people in Johnson County. And I live in Sheridan County, and there's 2,425. So we have 5 veterinarians in that county, one for about every 500. But if you do the average of the entire population of just under 3 million people, and you divide that by 1,748 veterinarians that are actively licensed, one veterinarian sees a little over 1,700 people if everybody had animals, but not everybody has animals.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're basing this on people and not animals, and surely people aren't seeing veterinarians.
There are a lot of small animals in Johnson County. This is just real data. This is real data. People like to live it. Yeah.
Committee, questions? I have a question that came up from one of my constituents that called me from Coffee County. And it seems like in southeast corner, these people are, they raise deer.
Yes.
And they could not find a veterinarian that whatever they have to do for test or whatever. It was awful hard to find.
Wasting disease.
Yeah. And I talked to Kelsey at Ag, and she says that kind of there's been a vacancy in southeast Kansas for quite a while. Is that true?
I can't speak specifically for if there's veterinarians that work with deer down there. I don't know that because the people that license, they say they're small animal or large animal, and we don't break out the species. So I would have to get back with you about that to figure out how many veterinarians are actually licensed to work on deer in Kansas.
So if you find somebody that is licensed that does that for like high fenced operations, I'd like their name and I'll pass it on to them.
Kansas Fish and Game Department out of Pratt probably has that information, but if you've checked with them and they don't, we'll do some more research.
Because they go through the Department of Ag, not Wildlife and Parks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Committee, any more questions? Good job. Lots of good numbers, and if you're a dog, it looks like Johnson County is the place to go.
Can I make one closing comment?
You bet.
I've hired 12 veterinarians to come to Western Kansas. I had a practice in Oberlin, Norton, and Hoxie for many years, and I've sold those 3 practices. And we interviewed a lot of people that didn't really like Western Kansas, that didn't want to stay. And I tell people, when you come to Western Kansas, we interview you and we put you to work. And if you like the work, you stay and you raise a family and you marry a school teacher and they stay. But that's kind of the way that works. But if we don't like how it works out, we send you to the city.
Let's hope the veterinarians and teachers hang on out there. So if there's no more questions, we're going to close the hearing on veterinarian examiners. Next on the agenda, we'll open the hearing on the Board of Accountancy budget. Tarday will give us a presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharday Kane, and I will be presenting the Board of Accountancy. The Board of Accountancy provides for the certification and regulation of certified public accountants within the state of Kansas. I'm going to fast forward to page 6. Although I'm happy to answer questions on pages 1 through 5, those pages are an overview and a look at the Board of Accountancy fee fund. On page 6, the 2023 legislature approved $497,491 for the Board of Accountancy for fiscal year 2024. The agency requests a revised estimate of $507,385, all from the Board of Accountancy fee fund for fiscal year 2024. This is a $9,894 or 2% increase above the amount approved by the 2023 legislature. The revised estimate includes $16,000 for the following supplemental requests. The database conversion is the first one. That is an $8,000 request to begin a database conversion and maintain the current database during the conversion. The second supplemental request is for legal fees. The increase in the contract that they have with each attorneys. Absent the supplemental request, there is a decrease of about $6,000 in other adjustments. The governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2024 revised estimate, and I can either stand for questions for fiscal year 2024 or move forward.
Committee, any questions for 24? Continue, please.
On page 7, there's a brief overview of the change from actual expenditures from fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2024. And on page 8, you will find the fiscal year 2025 analysis. The 2023 legislature approved a budget of $426,097, all from special revenue funds and 3 FTE positions for fiscal year 2025. The agency requests $468,475, all from the Board of Accountancy fee fund. This is a decrease of about $38,000 or 7.7% below the approved amount from fiscal year 2025. The decrease is primarily attributable to the planned retirement of the agency's executive director and is partially offset by salary increases for 2025 that were approved by the 2023 legislature. The request includes database conversion, the $18,859 for conversion of the database and maintenance of the current database during the transition. Number 2 is hospitality, includes $400 in anticipation of holding a retirement reception for the executive director. Item number 3 is for legal fees for the $8,000 for the increased contract costs. And item number 4 is the pay plan, $15,100 for that. The governor concurs with the agency's fiscal year 2025 request.
Committee, any questions on 25? You okay? Looks fine to me. Are we ready to move on to the Susan? Thank you, Sharnay. Susan, from the board, will answer questions, but has no testimony. This is great. So, so,
I am Susan Summers. I am the current executive director and have been for 27 years. And I'm actually retiring this year. I said this last year. And part of the reason for our adjustment in 24 is because of the database conversion. It was to have happened last year, but things didn't go according to how they should. And we are on track now. In fact, we had our 3rd meeting this morning actually, on the conversion. So there's going to be some adjustments between 24 and 25 because there's some overlap of what we have now, what we're paying for now, and then going forward. we were one of the lucky agencies that was able to take advantage of the spark money. So our initial outlay for the new database will come out of the agency fund, normal the first year. So we are blessed in that regard, and we're the second agency to climb on board with the new database vendor.
Yeah.
Real estate appraisal is right now going through their process, and we are up next. So that's a good thing. But it has put off my retirement.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
So basically, things have the last 2 years have been rolled pretty good according to your blueprint, right?
Actually, the last 27 years.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So
Maintain a good balance in our fee fund. To the questions that you have, since I've been with the board, when I first started, there was hardly anything in the fee fund. The fees hadn't been raised for quite a while. And so I came in 96 and 99 and raised our fees. We didn't raise fees again until 2018. So since that time, since about 99, 2000, we've maintained at least 1 year's balance and sometimes 1.5 years balance in the fee fund. Keep in mind, they are all self-insured, so if we blow away tomorrow, we gotta start all over again. So I've always felt, the accountant in me always felt comfortable to have that cushion in the fee fund. And I think you would probably see that with a lot of the other agencies as well. Fee fund agencies.
committee, any questions? Representative Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, having that fee fund there, that balance there provides some consistency, so, and able to plan better. I'm just curious, the database conversion, I'm glad you're staying through that migration. So, and it's good to see the agencies. And so you're anticipating that that's going to pretty much streamline and kind of help as far as your operations with registering people getting their license and stuff up to speed.
Exactly. Also, I'm revising like 20 different regulations at the same time too, to make sure that they're in place for the next person. You don't have to. It is, sometimes I think I must hate myself to go to the database conversion because they are no fun. There's a, when you stop, in your head, you know what you do, but then when you have to explain it to someone else, oh my gosh. That's the plan.
Okay. Representative Bloom?
Great. I think we need to thank you for all your years of service. That's really an honor, that many years with the state. Thank you very much.
Representative?
Thank you. That's what I was going to do that as well. I've enjoyed working with you for 22 years. So now you've learned it all. But it is amazing when you try to transfer your knowledge to someone else, and they'll have new ideas and new knowledge, but they need to know what happened to get it to that point. So thank you for that. Thank you for hanging in there until you get it done. And COVID didn't help, I'm sure. So thank you so much. Are we invited to the party? Sure. Thank you.
Is your baton person behind you who's taking the torches?
In March, we're gonna start doing that.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And the goal is to hire someone in April and have them
Yeah.
shadow. My goal is to retire August 1st.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a little bit of overlap into the next school year.
Gonna get
Good.
ready.
Hopefully they don't run away.
So, any other questions, committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If there's no other questions, we'll close the hearing. Do we have a motion? Does anybody want to work these today? Anyone opposed to that? I guess we're gonna go ahead and start, we'll work these, Luke. So, uh, motion to work on the veterinary examiner's budget. Need a second? Okay.
So
Okay,
the motion is.
to pass it out. Thank you. So the motion will be pass out the veterinarian and the accountancy budgets.
No, just
No?
one at a time.
You want time?
One at a
Okay,
time.
let's work on the veterinarians.
Well, yeah, that's different.
Say that again. So, on the veterinarian's budget for 24 and 25, what's your pleasure, committee? Thank you. And we're gonna talk. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the motion is to pass out FY 24 and 25 for Board of Veterinarian Examiners. Thank you.
Discussion? That's Representative Moser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that will include their request for the pay plan shortfall, correct?
Okay. Okay, those in favor of passing out as amended? Not amended. No amendments. As requested. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed out. Next, we'll go through the Board of Accountancy.
Mr. Chair,
Representative.
I move that we pass out the Board of Accountancy budget for 24 and 25.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I guess, yeah. I guess those in favor of passing out as submitted, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's passed out. So we're on the road.
Two down.
Yeah.
Two down.
So, is there anything else for the committee today? Next on our agenda will be Curb and KCC coming next. So, other than that, if we have nothing else, this meeting's adjourned for now.